You can breathe in air through your mouth and through your nose, can't you? Now, we should be nose breathers because the mouth hasn't got the little caverns to ricochet around. The mouth hasn't got the little hairs. So we should be nose breathers. And I don't know if you've heard of the Buteyko method of breathing. Professor Buteyko is a Russian man who developed a method of breathing to help people with asthma. And he pushes nose breathing because nose breathing purifies the air. And some people would say, but I can't breathe through my nose. I say, why not? Because it's all blocked up. What's my next question? We haven't had the why yet. You see Newton's third law of motion. To every action there is an equal and an opposite reaction. There is always a reason. Why is your nose blocked up? Well, there's all this mucus there. What's my next question? Why is the mucus there? And the person says, I don't know. The most common reason, or the most reason that there is mucus in the eustachian tubes is an intolerance to gluten. You see, not only was the starch structure changed in the hybridization of the wheat, the gluten structure was changed. Let me show you. So the wheat that God made is encorn. And the gluten structure of encorn is very fragile. Very fragile protein or gluten structure. It is not sure when, a couple of thousand years ago, encorn did a wild hybrid with a field grass and came up with the Emma strain of wheat. The Emma strain of wheat has a little bit more complex protein or gluten structure. Not as fragile as encorn, but fairly fragile. Fragile is important because fragile means that the grinding process, the cooking process, the chewing process, the digestive enzyme easily breaks it down and it's very easy to digest, as you'll see on Friday night when we go on our journey through the gut. In the 1950s, a group of scientists put the Emma form of wheat through intensive crossbreeding. But what was never addressed was the effect on the body, especially the effect on the gut and other parts of the body. The hybridization of this wheat created an incredibly complex protein or gluten structure. It's almost only a cast iron gut that can break that down, and there aren't many cast iron guts today. Whereas spelt and kamut, they both have retained that fairly fragile structure. Now, if that hybridized wheat is made into a sourdough bread, the sourdough bread is a cultured bread, and that bread particularly breaks down the protein or the gluten structure of the wheat. And so the sourdough bread or the sourdough wheat is now a much less complex protein structure. Now, if you make spelt or kamut into a sourdough bread, and basically the sourdough is just the way the bread is made or risen, you can bring the spelt and kamut back to the very fragile encorn structure. That's why the sourdough bread is superior, because it is a cultured bread that basically just about pre-digests your grain. Now, if a person has an intolerance to the wheat, and many do, one of the reactions is excess mucus is created. And that excess mucus is sitting in the eustachian tubes. Also, if a person cannot handle dairy products, that can also create excess mucus in the eustachian tubes. So, if someone has excess mucus and can't breathe through their nose, my suggestion is to stop the wheat. In fact, I could almost have an answering service on my phone. Stop the wheat, dairy, refined sugar. Next. Stop the wheat, dairy, refined sugar. Now, you can eat a slice of bread and it'll be out of your body in 24 hours, but the effect can remain for up to 2 months. So it's a bit of patience there. You've got to wait for that to be out of the body. So back to our nose breathing, and that's also your sleep apnea machine. A lot of people need that because of mucus that's up in here. There's a question, can you get off the sleep apnea machine? You can when you stop the wheat, and you can when you lose weight. How do you lose weight? Stop the wheat, dairy, refined sugar. How can you clean up the mucus in the eustachian tubes? Stop the wheat, dairy, and refined sugar. I could just have a recorder here and keep pushing it, couldn't I? Is it that simple? Well, just about. Just about. How do you know if you've got an intolerance to? Stop the wheat, dairy, refined sugar. Watch and wait and see what happens.